If he had a great night last night, he could have maybe stepped in for 2024. What does this mean for him?
I think that, the immediate reaction is that this notion that Glenn Youngkin was going to swoop in and save the day in 2024 probably won't happen. I mean, the results of the election weren't in his favor, but the door is still open in 2028. Going into the election, strategists, journalists would agree that, Virginia is a bluish state. And as he mentioned in that video, the margins were razor thin. I was talking to a Republican strategist, and he said, look, this isn't ideal for him, but the momentum that Youngkin built before the election hasn't gone anywhere. It's still there. Now he has an opportunity to shoot down some of the Democratic legislation that's going to come through assembly that is controlled by Democrats in the Senate and the House. So it's not over for Glenn Youngkin. 2028 is more likely something that he's going to look towards now. But 2024, I don't foresee him entering in at this late in the game.
He was open about the fact that if they took the legislature, Saleha, that a 15-week abortion ban would be something pursued by the new Republican majority. We also saw an important vote on abortion in Ohio last night. They're consistent in their outcome. How much of that had to do with the result in Virginia?
Joe, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Republicans are not seeing the wave materialize that's been predicted time and time again. Republicans are seeing a little bit of a reckoning with abortion policy and politics coming through, social and cultural issues coming through more aggressively than they expected. So there has been a change in the way the Democrats are billing the elections, of what they saw yesterday, what they see ahead, despite the fact that the president that is running again is not the pick for most voters, at least today, based on polling today. But abortion policies have really resonated with independents and with Republicans, particularly suburban moms.
Isn't it such a mismatch, though? Polls time and time again say the economy rates number one. Everyone is concerned about inflation. But yet at the end of the day, what we've seen, a 56% in Ohio, percentage-wise, in terms of making sure that abortion is enshrined in their constitution, it shows that voters at the end of the day care even more about something else over the economy. How do you read these two signals we're getting?
It's a little bit hard to say because this was a local election. When it comes to the general election, that's where you see a little bit more of what inflation and household budgets and home prices is actually doing to American households. Right now, it seems like the fight for democracy line that Biden used in 2018 during midterms that kind of blocked the Republican wave, according to a lot of analysts, that same pattern has come forth again. But also you have to look at the polling industry a little bit, how questions are asked. There's a lot of sort of like questions that are going around from analysis, an analyst questioning how questions are asked in polls. But the other thing to consider is that the economy is starting to show some more cracks. And people are going to point to the sitting president, the leaders that we have right now, and point to them rather than Donald Trump, who a couple of years ago, everyone's forgotten what happened.
So I'm deeply curious to see what form this debate takes tonight. Will it be about the economy, stupid, or will they actually get into some of these issues? I wonder how Nikki Haley, for instance, manages the issue of abortion, not to mention foreign policy, to try to differentiate herself from others on the stage.
They're all going to have to be asked about abortion because clearly Republican messaging is not working. We've now seen this. We saw it on display last night. But remember when we sat down with Nikki Haley, she would not answer what her cutoff point is. Right. So Glenn Youngkin's talking about 15 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
We know Ron DeSantis.
And she's talking about consensus, which is not going to get applause on that stage.
She's talking about consensus, and she will not name a number.
So, interesting, Saleha, you spoke with Chris Sununu, the Republican governor of New Hampshire, about the debate coming up tonight. Here's what he had to say.
What you're likely going to see is DeSantis keep hitting Nikki Haley on a variety of things. Nikki has to show that and she did it in the second debate, I think, very well, that she isn't just kind of that flash of fire, that she really has that grit, that staying power. She can give it as well as she can get it.
So this is being framed as a showdown between Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, a race for second. He'll be in the center of the stage tonight as the highest poll getter, but she's the one with momentum. Is this, based on what we just heard about Nikki Haley, a last stand for Ron DeSantis?
It might be. He did get some fresh momentum when Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds endorsed him just a couple of days ago. But New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, when I sat down and chatted with him for the podcast, he talked a lot about how there are great governors who are in the race. He's not quite ready to back one person, but he does talk about Nikki Haley more than any other candidate. He's talked about how he's getting closer and closer to nominating her. And we've seen more donor support going toward Nikki Haley. Bloomberg News just last week reported that Gary Cohn and some other Wall Street types in New York are hosting a fundraiser for her. So Ron DeSantis has not quite resonated there, but we shouldn't really underestimate the power that the Iowa governor and our Iowa governor, particularly Kim Reynolds, has coming up against the Iowa caucus in January.
Yeah, that was a huge win for him, getting Kim Reynolds to back him, the speech, but it was almost, we all knew it was coming, right? She sat with him at a football game. She was obviously very much in Ron DeSantis' corner. When it comes to the debate tonight, though, Nikki Haley, everyone is looking at, and it's almost as the moment is meeting her expertise. Is she going to lean into that, do you think? Will she be the one to be the voice on foreign policy that, you know, the loudest voice on that stage? I know likely her and Vivek Ramaswamy potentially will get into some of those debates.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Nikki Haley, this is the winning moment for her. It's her show. I mean, she has a lot to win from this debate. Her campaign has really tried to make her foreign policy experience a highlight of her campaign. I know that they have often brought up that she's a former UN ambassador. So this is a really great opportunity for her. But I also think that she can really distinguish herself on the issue of abortion. I was talking to an analyst, and they told me, look, if I were an anti-abortion politician, I'd be scared. And I think that Nikki Haley will be able to come off of the hills of this election night where she saw that it was a referendum on abortion access and really make the case to Republican voters, specifically suburban women, and say, look, I'm different from the other candidates on the stage on the issue of abortion. And I think it's going to be a great opportunity for her.